How do I secure a hard drive before sending it in for repair? Hey everyone, Leo Notenboom here for askleo.com. How does one secure a hard drive when sending the computer into a repair facility? I have personal financial information on my hard drive. Will a password provide sufficient protection while the computer is in the shop? After the fact, is there a way to find out if someone has copied files? This can present quite a dilemma. The answer to your second question first. No, there's really no way to determine if your files have been viewed or copied. As for protecting your data, there's no guaranteed solution. I've even heard of companies electing not to repair a hard drive because doing so would expose sensitive data to repair technicians. Your options are somewhat limited, but if you can plan ahead, there's actually a chance of preserving your security. The problem's fairly basic. Handing your computer, or even just its hard disk, to a technician violates one of the fundamental principles of computer security. If it's not physically secure, it's not secure. Period. Now, that's true regardless of the reason. Handing your computer over to anyone is fundamentally insecure. It all boils down to trust. In an ideal world, a trustworthy technician would work on your machine. In the real world, we've all heard stories of data being exposed or stolen by folks performing repairs. So, what to do? If you can plan ahead, the only secure solution is to encrypt the sensitive data you store on your hard drive. Now, you might think that whole disk encryption would be the way to go. The problem is that the technician will need to boot your machine to perform the repair, meaning you'll have to share the decryption key or the login so that they can boot the system. After doing so, they'll have access to everything. The more practical solution would be to encrypt only your data, using tools like VeraCrypt or Cryptomator. When your data is not mounted, the approach both of those tools use to access your encrypted data, your technician can work on your machine without being able to access any sensitive information stored therein. Now, encryption ahead of time is nice if you're willing to put in the effort in case the computer might someday need to be sent to a technician. For most people, it may not be worth the effort. Unfortunately, there aren't really any good last-minute solutions. If the computer is so broken you can't encrypt your data before sending it in the machine to be repaired, you're stuck. Now, there's one possibility. If the problem you're having is not hard disk related, one option is to remove the hard disk while they work on your computer. Someone would need to provide a temporary hard disk so that they could work on the machine, but at least it wouldn't have your data on it. When you get your computer back, you replace the hard drive and hopefully all is well. Sadly, almost all problems involve something on the disk, the software or the disk itself. What's on the hard disk is typically at the heart of any repair work. Using a program's password protection is better than nothing. If your bookkeeping program, word processor, or some other program provides this layer of protection, then use it. Ultimately, however, application password protection isn't the same as taking the steps to secure the hard drive. It's best of thinking it just as keeping honest people honest. Here are a few of the problems with using the password protection provided by so many applications. Sometimes a password doesn't mean that the data is even encrypted. It simply prevents the application from opening the file without the proper password. The information in the file remains unencrypted and possibly visible via other means. Sometimes the encryption is light. By that I mean the encryption is more properly called obfuscation to keep the data from being easily visible. It's not much of a barrier to someone truly interested in cracking the file. Sometimes the encryption is incompetent. Perhaps there are bugs or poor decisions that were made while creating the software to make the encryption less than secure. Application authors, while great in their application, are rarely also security experts. The result is that the file could be vulnerable to a hacker intent on breaking in. Yes, it's possible, probable even, that with major software, the encryption is secure, but it's also unlikely that your technician is an expert hacker ready to crack a reasonable encryption. But how do you know? The bottom line is trust. Your options are few and inconvenient. If you can, encrypt sensitive data ahead of time. This also protects you should your computer be stolen. Investigate the password protection you're offered in the software you run and use it to secure your data. If you have sensitive data you know is unencrypted, vulnerable, or particularly sensitive, never give that computer to someone you don't completely trust. If you can't find someone to trust, then perhaps not repairing the system, or at least the hard drive, might be the most realistic solution. Now, I have to throw in a recommendation for backing up. Besides sidestepping the issue almost completely, if your hard drive dies, rather than having a technician fix it and potentially access your data, you replace the hard drive, you restore the data from your most recent backup. Destroy the broken drive for additional security, if you like. If the problem is not your hard drive, you could still remove or reformat it before sending it in for repair. Once the repair is complete, you'd restore your data from backup. This doesn't resolve software issues, where the technician really does require access to the software on your computer, but it does provide an additional option for other hardware-specific failures. And like most of the solutions I've discussed, proper prior planning is required. Bottom line, consider encrypting your important data now before you need to. For updates, for comments, for links related to this topic and more, visit askleo.com/17773. I'm Leo Notenboom, and this is askleo.com. Thanks for watching.